Hello everyone, and welcome to this Diablo 3 guide for the mid-game time frame of a season. We'll go over all the steps you should take and objectives you should pursue after hitting level 70. Just follow these recommendations to help get yourself well established and efficiently progress toward the endgame. As soon as you hit level 70, you will start doing rifts. You'll do regular Nephilim rifts to get greater rift keystones, which you'll then use to do greater rifts. At the end of each greater rift, you'll obtain a legendary gem and be able to level up your legendary gems. The first greater rift you complete will give you the Bane of the Powerful gem. You'll want to level this gem to level 25 as soon as possible to start benefiting from its extra bonus. The second greater rift you complete will generally give you the Legacy of Dreams gem, which you can use to piece together a build in lieu of obtaining a 6-piece set bonus. After that, each subsequent greater rift will reward you with a random legendary gem until you receive them all. These gems are the easiest and most reliable way to increase your power early on. And as you gain power, continue bumping up the difficulty as you can, each time you get any significant gear upgrade or get a new legendary gem with a few levels on it. Completing rifts is the best way to obtain gear, and as you continue running them, you'll begin to collect set piece items. You'll want to obtain a 6-piece set bonus as soon as you can from any of your class's sets. The set bonuses are too powerful to pass up. As you're starting out, don't target a specific set or particular build. You'll be at the mercy of your initial drops, and any of the sets will get the job done. Just take whatever comes to you and adjust to it as best you can. This is one of the most enjoyable parts of the game, combining pieces together and experimenting with different skills, sometimes in atypical ways, to find what works well. As you progressively obtain the 2-piece, 4-piece, and 6-piece set bonuses, they will typically instantly vault you up into being able to handle higher difficulty levels for your rifts. An effective way to obtain a full set of gear is to get Hadrig's Gift by completing the seasonal objectives. If you worked on the seasonal objectives while leveling up and completed all the ones you could do prior to level 70, then you will immediately obtain a 2-piece set bonus when you hit max level, and you will only need to complete a couple more objectives to get the 4-piece set bonus. You'll then want to prioritize finishing the seasonal objectives to obtain the 6-piece set bonus. Most of the remaining objectives will require you to recreate your game and raise the difficulty, but the 4-piece set bonus you now have should allow you to handle it. Obtaining the 5 jewel crafting recipes will be the most time-consuming task. A reliable way to obtain them is to complete bounties on each of the 5 acts, since the recipes will drop from the bounty caches. Completing these seasonal objectives to obtain Hadrig's Gift is the only thing that should interrupt you from doing rifts. Much like the early game, you'll want to continue picking up everything that drops: gold, gems, and any pieces of gear. However, as you get deeper into the mid-game, yellow rare items will start to drop in abundance. This can be a real hassle because it will often require you to pause your rift progress to return to town to salvage the items. To mitigate this, prioritize picking up blue magic items and white common items in lieu of the yellow rares. When salvaging, yellow rare items equate to a single crafting material, but the blue and white items equate to multiple crafting materials for each item salvaged. If you're ever running low on materials, then you can use the Kanai's Cube recipes to convert one crafting material to another. There are several legendary items that are helpful for multiple classes and commonly used in multiple builds. I usually keep an eye out for these items and store them in my stash when I come across them. I typically try to find 2 of each, one to potentially wear on an alternate build and one to extract in Kanai's Cube where possible. The main build you're pursuing may not use these items, but they can be helpful in certain situations or with different builds or classes you might want to try out during the season. Several of these items provide significant bonuses and are often used in in-game builds. And if they're not, they at least may be helpful substitutes until you find your build's desired piece of gear. These items are intended to be used on your follower. Several of them have the Emanate property, meaning the legendary power of the item will apply to your character as if you had the item equipped. Nemesis Bracers and the Flavor of Time are absolute must-haves for solo progression, and it should be a top priority to get your follower outfitted with them. These items are often used in speed builds to help farm lower difficulty rifts more easily, and they can be used in conjunction with these items to create a gold find build, which is beneficial when completing regular Nephilim rifts and bounties. These items can have valuable situational uses, like in set dungeons, so I like to hang on to one of each just to have them on hand if they're needed. And lastly, these 2 items can each be used in Kanai's Cube to summon a portal to a unique area where you can obtain additional items, gems, and gold. In addition to the items shown here, I also try to keep 1 gear piece from all the sets for my main class, just in case I want to try out different builds. And similarly, I also try to hang on to 1 piece of each of the class-specific weapons and armor if they have a legendary power on them. As you collect blood shards, purchase items from Kadala, the blood shard vendor, to try to obtain pieces of your build that you're missing. It's more efficient to only purchase items for the cheaper cost of 25 blood shards. If your build contains gear pieces with large damage multipliers on them, then you should try to obtain those first. And then you should target pieces that have damage stats on them, like the helm, gloves, and bracers. The damage stats on these pieces will generally have a bigger overall impact on your performance relative to other pieces that may only provide small increases to toughness. Along the way, as you're obtaining set gear pieces, you will likely end up with duplicate items of a single set before you can get one of each. Once you have 6 total pieces of a set, then you can use Kanai's Cube to convert a duplicate set piece into another random piece from the same set. Do this as much as you can if you have the crafting materials available until you get 6 unique set pieces. You can use this cube recipe to help obtain your initial complete gear set, or you can use it to help transition to a different set that you prefer to play. Similarly, you can also use Kanai's Cube to upgrade yellow rare items to fill holes in your build. You won't have enough crafting materials available to use this recipe too much early on, so try to target critical pieces that significantly increase damage output or toughness, particularly items that provide a damage multiplier to your key skills. Avoid spending precious materials crafting yellow rares at the blacksmith for this cube recipe, and instead opt to use yellow rare items obtained from spending blood shards at Kadala. Don't forget that your follower can wear a full suit of gear, and several items can emanate to you when worn on the follower, meaning your character will receive the benefit of the corresponding legendary power. The top priorities for your follower are the immunity item in the special follower slot, the flavor of time in the amulet slot, and nemesis bracers in the wrist slot. You should also strive to equip your follower with the Sage's set as soon as possible, which increases the amount of Death's Breath that drops, and is extremely useful, especially early on, when they can be a limiting reagent. This set is crafted at the blacksmith, but you will need to first obtain the recipe for it, which is dropped mainly from bounty caches or the occasional goblin. For the follower immunity item, if you get desperate, you can craft a yellow rare follower item and upgrade it in your cube, similar to your own gear, to try to get one with the follower cannot die property. As you obtain gear pieces, you should reroll stats to increase damage output and toughness. You won't have the materials available early on to reroll all of your gear in an optimized fashion, but you can try a reroll or two on each piece. Rerolling some of your bad stats just a couple of times can result in some significant overall upgrades across all your pieces, even if you don't have all of your desired pieces for your build. You should also try to get a socket on your weapon. For almost every build in the game, you will equip an emerald for increased damage. Reroll one of your weapon's properties to a socket at the Mystic, and then supply the highest level emerald you reasonably can. This will typically give you a huge damage output boost. A Ramalani's gift can also be used to place a socket on a weapon, but I generally prefer to save these for a little bit later on, either after I get a good weapon to use it on, or when I have multiple gifts to use. You will want to upgrade your non-legendary gems in your gear as soon as practical. You will need to obtain recipes for the higher level gems which drop from bounty caches or from the occasional goblin. The bounty caches are the most reliable way to obtain the recipes, and you'll most likely need to do a couple of rounds of bounties to obtain them all. Even if you don't have all the recipes yet, craft the highest level gems you can with the materials you have available. For most builds, you'll socket your chest and pants with your main stat, and then put an emerald in your weapon and a diamond in your helm for cooldown reduction. You can also convert gems using Kanai's Cube to consolidate the different types into the ones you need. At this point, you'll have done what you can do to get as much power as you can out of the gear and materials you have available. Now you should keep doing rifts and work toward obtaining and upgrading legendary gems by completing greater rifts. Legendary gems are extremely powerful, each one offering a different bonus with additional bonuses that unlock at gem level 25. You should always focus on putting levels into the legendary gems that go with your build to increase your overall power quickly. Until you obtain the ones you need, Bane of the Powerful, Bane of the Trapped, Zay's Stone of Vengeance, Taeguk, Gogok of Swiftness, Bane of the Stricken, and Enforcer are commonly used in many builds and are solid gems to dump levels into. You can always use them in the interim and swap them out later. No levels will be wasted since you'll be able to use them later on to augment your gear in the late game. Other beneficial gems include Esoteric Alteration, which is very good for new players learning the game. And the same goes for Molten Wildebeest Gizzard, which is another helpful crutch for newer players. You can start out using these two defensive gems, and once you get more familiar with the game and build playstyles, you can later switch them out for more offensive gems conducive to a late game build. Boon of the Hoarder is also a great choice to put a few levels into early on to help obtain more gold for empowering greater rifts. Many times you're at the mercy of random gear drops dictating what set gear and build you initially use. Even if you obtain Hadrick's gift from the seasonal objectives, it may not be the set you desire to play long term. Pick out the set that you'd like to play, look up build guides to see tips from others, or experiment with different combinations of gear to see what fits your playstyle. Keep in mind that many gear guides on the internet are aimed at the late game or high greater rift clears and may not be the best for you. Ultimately, decide what build you want to pursue first, so you'll have a vision and direction of what items you'll need to obtain to equip on your character, follower, and in Kanai's Cube. At some point, once you're a little more established, have some gold to spend, and are starting to build up a bit of an item collection, set up your stash space for better organization. After getting to level 70 and playing through a few rifts, your stash may look something like this. While leveling, you'll generally want to save just about everything, because you don't know what may turn out to be useful. But after you've gotten established with the 6-piece set, and you decide on the build you want to play, you can start honing in on what you'll keep. Purchase all of your stash tabs. You can change the icon for each tab by right-clicking on it. I like to set up my stash early on so I can find things easily and keep better track of which items I've already obtained. Staying disciplined while playing and putting things where they belong as you get them really helps avoid an overly messy stash that requires a lot of time to clean up later. I like to have a tab for gems, a tab for generic weapons, and one for generic armor that can be equipped by any class. And then I have a tab for my main class's set items, and 2 additional ones to hold my main's class-specific weapons and armor. And then a tab to hold complete gear sets that I can swap out easily, like for gold find, speed farming, or greater rift pushing. Then I'll have a tab for rings, a tab for amulets and belts, and then a tab to hold any off-class items that I want to carry over to non-season. As you're working your way up in overall power, you'll want to strive to successfully complete a level 70 Greater Rift within the time limit. Doing this will do 2 things for you. First, the Rift Guardian will drop a guaranteed Primal Ancient item the first time you complete the level 70 Rift. And more importantly, it will unlock the ability for you to have a chance at receiving Primal Ancient items from any of your gear drops for the rest of the season. As you get established with a full set of gear and can reliably farm rifts, consider starting to piece together a gold find set of gear. You'll want to use some variation of a speed build, with as many items as possible in the build that contain the secondary property that gives extra gold from monsters. An Avarice Band ring from Act 3 bounty caches, combined with a Boon of the Hoarder legendary gem, are common staples of a gold find build, and will tremendously amplify the amount of gold you receive. I like to have a completely different set of gear with no shared pieces to make it easier to apply upgrades and save the builds in the armory for easy swapping. The earlier you can start putting together a gold find build, the earlier you'll be able to regularly empower greater rifts. This will allow you to put an extra point in the legendary gem at the end of the rift, increasing the efficiency of how fast you increase your overall power. At some point, you'll want to do 2 or 3 rounds of bounties to get the crafting materials you'll need to extract legendary powers in Kanai's Cube. You'll also receive blacksmith crafting recipes from the bounty caches that will unlock patterns your build may need, and you'll get gem recipes you'll need to upgrade your non-legendary gems to the highest level possible. You'll want to wait to do this until you can comfortably handle higher Torment difficulty levels, closer to Torment 16. The higher the difficulty, the greater chance you'll have of getting some of the bounty-specific item rewards, and the more bounty-specific crafting materials you'll receive. Joining a public game with others is a great way to increase the efficiency of completing these bounties. Keep in mind that the general strategy in a public bounty game is to have all 4 players split up to complete different bounties at the same time. So you'll need to make sure you can handle the corresponding difficulty with 4 players in the game. And of course, don't forget you can complete a new challenge rift every week for extra bounty materials. One of your next milestones will be to reach level 800 Paragon. Getting to that point will unlock all of the different Paragon benefits, and you'll then be able to start dumping additional Paragon levels into your main stat. It will also usually signify that the mid-game is nearing a close and you'll transition to the late game. You'll want to have Torment 16 difficulty on farm status, being able to quickly and reliably complete regular Nephilim rifts in around 5 minutes or less. And that's all for this video. Hopefully this assortment of tips and guidance will give you a more efficient time progressing through the mid-game and will get you prepared for the late game of a new season. If you enjoyed the guide and would like to see more content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.